So if you're thinking about this Canon camera, the PowerShot G7X Mark III, is it a good option? Well, that depends what you're thinking about. You can pick them up for a great price. Now at the moment, there are actually a few options in this camera. You can get the one I've got, or you can get the black version. The black version is the one you're seeing on screen right now. The one I've got is a silver and black version. And the good thing about this camera is you can use it very easily. It's designed to basically turn on, start recording. It's got an automatic mode, but today I want to walk you through all the specs, because when I say specs, I mean more the menus. So in the camera, it can be confusing. So what I've done is, for you especially, I've plugged in a HDMI cable. So on screen right here, if I can point to it, is digitally there. It's not actually here. So I have to point at it like a television weatherman presenter style. So the menu is on screen. So what does each of these mean? And just like magic, it's turned off. So I'm going to reset it. So first up, HDMI mode. That gives you a view of the camera. So I've plugged in HDMI. It actually gives you a live view, so you can use it as a webcam. So that's like already winning in my eyes. Menu. So first option there, we've got along the top, you'll notice there is a little camera. And this is, wait, let me go to the top. I would normally touch screen it, but because it's on screen, I can't touch it. It is a touch screen. So the first camera has 6 sub menus under it. We're going to look at each of those. But you've got the star, which is a green menu. You've got the yellow one, which is a spanner. You've got, well, let's go back through that. You've got purple for setting up. We've got video mode kind of menu. Let's go back to the start, the camera, and let's go number 1. Just like that. So first up, shooting mode. What I'm doing here is I'm selecting with the little spinning tool behind it. So first up, we're going to select, and you've got modes, movie, auto exposure. What does that mean? So if you're totally new to video and photos, you want to put it in auto exposure mode, which will allow you to, well, allow the camera to set everything up for you, which basically means the ISO speed, the ISO rating, the shutter speed, the aperture, all of it will be controlled by the camera automatically based on your situation. It's not the best way of doing it if you want to get really fancy, but it is a good one because it does everything for you. So if you're someone that just wants to film, you're not too fussed, you want just video, that'll do fine. The next one, this video blog mode is actually an upgrade. You have to update your camera's firmware. I did a full video explaining how to update the firmware. The reason you want to do that is it upgrades the firmware from 1.2 to 1.3 because this camera has not been great for auto focusing when you're recording a video or vlogging. So they've actually updated the firmware, which gives you this extra little video blog mode, which focuses rapidly, follows changes in the scene, which is basically the menus there, suitable for recording daily events easily, so vlogging. They've actually given you like a little menu. If you haven't got this, if you've got the same camera I'm talking about here, the Mark III G7X, then you can simply upgrade it. It's free. There's no charge for it. It's not too intense. I've done a 3-minute video explaining exactly how to do it. The next one here is my favorite. It's the movie manual exposure mode. So movie mode, in which you can set the shutter speed and aperture and the ISO. So this is what I like to do. The reason I like to use this is if you're taking videos and it's a cloudy day, I'll set the aperture to really low, then I'll set a shutter speed to about 60 frames a second, based on if I'm shooting 24p video, or 50 frames a second even, and the ISO as low as possible, because if it's outdoors there's enough light there. But you need a little bit more experience about these 3 settings, the ISO, the shutter speed and the aperture, and how they work with each other. But if you're totally new to cameras, don't worry. I've done like a full explanation course about that, explaining those 3 things and how they affect your video. So you can scratch up on that quite easily by watching those videos. I've done it in the sense of someone new to cameras or photography. So that would help you. The last one here is a HDR video mode. So this basically makes the video a little bit more poppy. So it makes the colors a bit more contrasty, gives you like a nicer high definition feel basically. I'm not a big fan of it. I like to shoot manual video, and then I would go into my video software, editing software, and if I wanted to adjust something, I'll do that there. But being a Canon, the colors already on the videos tend to be good, so you don't have to really like have too much worry about the colors unless you're doing like a full-on film grade. But if you're doing a film grade, you won't be recording with a point and shoot camera firstly, So we have to look at it for what it is and understand that the camera will have limitations. But for daily vlogging, easy videos, holiday videos, perfect. I like how easy it is coming from a DSLR. I'm like, wait a minute, wait, this is so easy. And it's pocketable, very good size. So I'm not selling the camera. I'm giving you the menus and breaking down how to use it. So hopefully this helps you, because I do like it based on, there are some flaws of the camera, which you probably will notice as I speak about it. So let's go back. To go back, you press menu button again and it goes back. So that was the shooting mode that we looked at. Next up, movie record quality. What's that all about? You'll notice there it's got some settings there. Let's click set. And right now, the movie record size, you'll see movie record quality on the menu. And then on the menu itself, you've got the dimensions and how long it records for. So first of all, this will record for 29 minutes and 59 seconds, about 30 minutes basically, in HD mode continuously. But most of the time, if you're recording vlogs, you might not be recording continuously. You might be doing lots of little segments, like as things happen throughout the day. So I didn't find that as a bit of a, I didn't find it as a hindrance at all to me for my recording of events. If you select it, you can see as I move up, there's different options here. So let's have a look at these, and I'll give you an example of where I would use which one. So the first one right at the bottom, it's 1280 by 720p in 60 frames a second. So this is basically 720p video, the lowest quality video this camera will do. What would you use this for? If I was doing something where I wanted to not use as much space, and it was something, for example, I was just recording videos for my own purpose. If I'm fixing a computer, for example, and I wanted to record just putting parts together and what order they went in, I could set up the camera on a tripod and I record in 720p. In that way, I can get loads of camera footage on a card and not have to worry about size, if that makes sense. In terms of cards and sizes for the memory card, we'll talk about that as well and explain what cards you want to use. So that's like a little bit of an example. Is 720p enough? Probably. If you've got good lighting like I've got here, it'll be fine. If you've got bad lighting, you might want a higher quality video, which when you use 1080p. So if I move over slightly, you'll see full HD, FHD stands for full HD, is 1920 by 1080. Again, that's 60 frames a second. And then if I go over and up here, that's 24 frames a second in 1080p. So when you're doing video, 24 frames a second tends to be like a nice option to have a natural blur on the video, so it looks a bit more interesting. So that's something to think about if you want to make video clips that look a bit more cinema film vlog style kind of thing. So I normally shoot in 24 frames a second all the time where possible. This camera has it. Then we've got 4K. You can see it's 4K by the dimensions. It's 3840 by 2160, and this is 24 frames a second again. Nice. And then up here we've got full HD in 30 frames a second, and then we've got 4K in 30 frames a second. But you'll notice the timer there, I stuttered a bit because it only records 10 minutes in full 4K mode. Have I had problems with that? Not at the moment, because I've not recorded in 4K for that long. I've done a couple of vlogs about some office chairs that I bought. I talked about like what office chair to get and which is a good one and upgrading, and that didn't bother me. I did loads of little clips. I think the biggest clip I did, I continuously spoke for 5 minutes, and it was like that was enough. Nobody wants to hear my voice for longer than that. But yeah, that is a limitation, so you need to be aware of it. If you're thinking of making 4K videos for like an hour continuously, you can't do it on this camera. After 10 minutes, it will shut down and say it's too warm. So keep that in mind. So if you got short clips, perfect. So that was the movie rec size. So you can press select and it will select the size you want. Let's go down. Let's go to 24 frames a second, 1080p, which is adequate for me. Next, down here, high frame rate. It's disabled at the moment. If you click it, you can enable it or disable it. What does that do? Well, it boosts up the frames per second. So you'll see there, I've got 120 frames a second now if I put it in enable mode on the high frame rate. Why would you want to do that? So this will be things like, for example, I was recording my dog. We were doing a walk and I was showing an example and he was running past. I made it high frame rate mode. I recorded my dog and it actually made him slow-mo in camera. A little clip I recorded. So when you're putting this mode on, make sure the video clip you're recording is the one you want slow-mo. Don't record everything in this mode. And then that way you've got a little clip already ready at slow speed and it looks quite good. It wasn't excellent. It wasn't like a Sony A7 III slow-mo, smooth, buttery smooth, but it's perfectly adequate for the type of camera it is. It worked very well. So that's that. Let's go menu. So we've done 2 of the first menu. Hopefully this is in depth for you. I'm giving it from my point of view and how I use it and how I think of it. So hopefully that helps you. Next down here, movie self timer. This is a good one. You know why? You can put it on 2-second mode. Well, there's 2 options there, 10-second or 2-second. So movie self timer basically refers to when you press record, it's going to give you a little pop-up on screen saying 3, 2, 1 or 2, 1 and then start recording, or 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 or 5. So if you're setting the camera up somewhere for a vlog, you can put it on the 10-second timer, leave the camera, press record, go away, and then you'll see on screen, because you can flip the screen up like that. You'll see it count down, so you're already in the shot, ready to speak. So when you're editing, you don't have to cut out the bit where you walk around the camera and stand in front of it. So it's like less editing basically. That's quite handy. I normally have it on 2-second because when you press record on screen, the camera can move a little bit when you're pressing the button. It looks a bit awkward. So having the 2-second, I press record and it counts to 2 and I'm already ready looking at the camera. So 2 seconds, very handy. Okay, so menu, that's 3. So sound recording, I've set it on auto, and you can see there the microphone moving. Automatic is the camera decides everything for you for the audio. If you're plugging a lav mic or wireless microphones, I would go into there and do manual and then decide by this recording level where you want it to be. So you can see there you can move that up and down so that it doesn't record too high. Because why? Let me give you an example of why this would be something to think about. Let me go up here. So let's go to auto. If it's in auto mode, see that? If for example that was wind, it will auto compensate for the wind, and when it's quiet, it'll put the volume a little bit higher, so you get like a bit of extra noise that you don't really want. So auto mode's not excellent. If it's a quiet environment, you're fine. But if it's somewhere where there's a lot of high and low volume, then you don't want to be using that mode. So I normally do manual, or you can disable it entirely if you want to not have audio on your video. I do manual normally, and you got a wind filter actuator which you can disable. I've got disabled there, a wind filter I've got it on auto, so that kind of helps reduce the wind noise. So the camera mic on top of the camera itself is just on top of the front here. There's 3 little like spaces, and there's like a little grill there which has a mic on it. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of detail about that. So that's number 1. So we've done well so far. Let's have a look at number 2. Remote control. You can enable or disable that based on if you're using it via remote shutter release, for example. That's something you would buy separately. Time-lapse mode is disabled because in this camera, you will notice here, I had a self timer on. So if I go back to option number 1, I go to that, go turn it off, and then come back here, it's still not there. But oh yeah, and I've got the high frame rate mode. So if I go to 1080p, let's try 1080p in, okay, let's try that, and let's go back. Ooh, what? Okay, so here we are gonna say shooting mode. Is it because I've got it in video mode? Is it because I got my HDMI plugged in? I want to plug my HDMI out and just prove it to see that it shows. Let me go shooting mode. Let's go manual, and let's go back into the menu. High frame rate is disabled. Good. Movie rec self timer is off. Sound recording is manual. Let's try see if that causes the issue. I think it's because it's picture style. I'm just jumping ahead quickly here just to find out why. Let's go back here. I think it's because the HDMI is in. Let me unplug the HDMI. So for a second you won't see it. Let me come back here. Okay, yeah. So what I'll do in this case is show you that screen there. Okay, one sec, hold up, just to give you the options. If I go